is okay. Dumile, please mute. Thank you. So today we focus in on building wealth through property, and we've got a phenomenal speaker that has vast experience in that field and will definitely give us great insights for those of us that seek to build wealth through property. And if you haven't considered it, maybe today is the day of the start of that journey. So if I can just do a brief introduction. And today we have Mrs. Amanda Mhlongo. She's a property developer, an entrepreneur, and an author. Amanda Mhlongo is a dynamic business and economic strategist with over 20 years of corporate experience. As the managing director of both Monday Developers and the Value Within Economics Institute, Amanda has built a successful property development firm with a robust investment division. Her leadership and expertise have earned her positions on several prestigious boards of directors, including her role in the establishment of King Shaka International Airport. Yes, the big one, the big main one in Durban, there where we land. Throughout her career, Amanda has been a driving force in fostering economic growth and empowering others on their entrepreneurial journeys. With a passion for community upliftment, she actively supports emerging businesses and individuals seeking economic independence. Her diverse background in corporate governance, real estate, and economic strategy allows her to navigate complex business landscapes with vision and precision. In addition to her entrepreneurial endeavors, Amanda is also an accomplished author, sharing her insights on building wealth, leadership, and sustainable success. Her work inspires others to unlock their potential and long-term economic stability. Amanda's mission is to create impactful change in both the property development sector and broader economic landscapes, all the while mentoring the next generation of entrepreneurs and business leaders. And Amanda also does head a group called Prayer for Economy, where she's helping kingdom citizens realize how they can also bring God into their finances and manifest the wealth that was meant for them. Thank you, Amanda. Amanda, please appear, please appear. Let's give a round of applause. Unmute, pa 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 pa, react. Let's, guys, we need to get her to come in. Let's clap hands. Let's unmute. Let pa 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 pa. We need to get her. We need to. She's not appearing yet. We need more. We need more reactions. We need more reactions. We need more hands. Okay, Amanda is only going to appear. Yeah. Okay. There we go. There we go. It's coming. Amanda, is this not enough? Okay, I think we have to unmute and ask her to join us. Amanda, pa 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 pa.
Oh, finally, it says that the host has to unmute me and unvideo me.
Oh, sorry. When did that happen though?
Oh, I apologize. I had to lock down everyone because people were coming in
okay.
already speaking. Okay. All right.
Oh, it wasn't Amanda waiting for a lot of applauses. Oh, there's Beatrice giving so many stars. I think that's gonna unlock everything, and it did.
And it did.
There we go.
There you go.
Finally, I feel like I was locked outside. But it's absolutely great. Thank you. I love the excitement about it. Thank you so much for introducing me in such a lovely way. I would just like to say thank you so much for this opportunity to my dear brother Mla and my dear sister Mabongi for inviting me today. Let me share my slides as we speak. I'm not sure if you can hear what's happening here. It's Diwali here and I am in Durban, so you can imagine what's happening. So I'm not sure if you can hear the noises as much
No,
as
it's
I
fine.
can hear.
We don't. No, we don't hear the background noise.
Oh, great stuff.
Perfect on our side.
All right. So I would like to start by sharing. Okay, what is happening here? I would like to start by. Okay, I won't make the slides bigger because it just won't allow me. But at this point, I would like to talk about building wealth, right, through property. But I want to highlight that wealth is never in isolation. You must always be in the center of your wealth building. And then wealth building has a lot to do with your financial and career growth. And then your mental and educational growth also has to be part of wealth building. Your physical and health also has to be part of wealth building, because you cannot build wealth if you are not healthy. You won't even be able to enjoy it anyway, even if you reach there and then you do not have health. Family and home allow you to enjoy the wealth that you've built. Those are the people often we go away on holidays with. And spiritual and ethical goals are also very important, because you cannot run and build wealth at the same time leave behind your spiritual goals or your spiritual life. Otherwise, your wealth building goals, even though you would have achieved them, they'd really be empty. And this is where we find a lot of people committing suicide even after they've built wealth. And then the last part that I will mention, not that it's least important, social and cultural. It's also very important for all of us to have a sense of belonging. So we need to consider all this as we continue to build wealth. Otherwise, one at the expense of the other does not yield the fulfillment that we often desire. I'm just going to move to the next slide. And then I'll be talking about the importance of wealth building. It's very important that your environment is right when you're building wealth, and that you are motivated not by your ambitions, but by your vision. You're not motivated by your ego, but you are motivated from your spirit, from your soul, and that your environment produces opportunities, that even if there's a lot of constraints in your environment, but we need to have an eye to see opportunities, because sometimes we get into a space, we see the constraints, we see the environment that is closed up and no opportunities. We've often seen this. For example, I come from Durban, and even in East London where I grew up, we people that are originally from the place, we don't see the opportunities, we see constraints. But somebody else comes from the different part of the world, maybe from Nigeria or from Johannesburg, they see opportunities almost instantly. So it's very important to train our eyes to see opportunities in any and every environment that we operate in. Because if you start to see constraints, that means your ego is taking over. But if you start to see opportunities, that means your faith is kicked in, your spirit is awake, and your soul is also very awake. And then the part that I also want to highlight as we build wealth that is very, very important. I'm going to go up in this ladder that we've designed here. Your behavior really talks about what is it that you are going to do to achieve your objectives. And it's very important that your behavior is proactive. That's why we have to often sit in the morning with God and determine what is it that we're going to do, develop that to-do list or action items before you get to hear the voices of other people, so that you're not found, if you are not ready and you step out of your house, you're not ready and you haven't heard what God said you must do for that day, then you begin to react to everybody's opinion, to all the news and everything else, and therefore you lose focus. And then you operate on your ego and not operate on your spirit. And then we also want to talk about capabilities. When you are building wealth, you must be aware of what your capabilities are, your strengths and your weaknesses, and be motivated not only by your intellect, which is very, very important, but also by your emotions. And by emotions, I mean by your spirit. You also are able to sense how you're feeling. And then based on how you're feeling, you decide the way forward. And then your capabilities, are you motivated for that day? How do you feel? Do you feel like you are fearing what's going to happen in that day? Do you feel courageous? Do you feel bold? Those are the things that you have to be sensitive about. And then go to your skills. Are you able to do what you are skilled for? Do you require your skills for the day? Are you able to take what you already have as a skill and implement the strategies that you have to build your wealth? And then we come to the importance of beliefs and values. Beliefs and values are so important when it comes to building wealth, because if your values are not aligned with the way you want to build your wealth, then you would find that there are times when you're not able to achieve your objectives, even if the environment is right, even if you are behaving the way the other person who's successful is behaving, even if you have the skills. But if your values are not agreeing with it from the inside, maybe your family values, for example, a lot of people would tend to have a value that money is something that brings corruption. You know, sometimes those values are so deep within ourselves that we're not conscious of them. And sometimes we're trying to build wealth, and yet we resent the people. Maybe we resent the person that we grew up seeing down the road who was a drug dealer. And we resented them so much, but they were the only ones who had the money down the road where we grew up. And then we connect money with corruption. And if that value is so intrinsic inside of you, is so fixed, then you would continuously need permission to move to the next level. Even though God can give you motivation, you would not be motivated to move forward, even if you take the right steps, but you would find that there's this thing that's holding you back. The same applies with beliefs. If you believe that money is the root of all evil, not the love of money, and sometimes we intellectually we can say the root of the love of money is the root of all evil. But in our belief system, because we've always misinterpreted that scripture, there could be a belief that is so that we are so convinced on the inside of us that money is this thing that brings strife. And maybe if we've grown up with our parents fighting over money for one reason or another, then we have this belief that money creates this conflict in the house. And we now grow up and we want to build the wealth intellectually, but there's this thing that holds us back from building this wealth. So this is why we have to motivate ourselves with the scriptures that feed our spirit, so that as we feed our spirit with the right set of beliefs, then the old sets of beliefs that are negative, that are not in line with our purpose or our objectives, would begin to disappear. But if we don't sit and meditate on the word in the right way, read the word, apply our minds to the word, allow the word to sit and transform us in our spirit, and this process can take years. And then allow ourselves to see people that are happy that have money, especially if we are able to identify, this is my problem. I have a belief system that's not right around money. That means we have to expose ourselves to a lot more people that are happy with money, that have good values with money. And then we begin, our hearts can begin to be changed and aligned with the intellectual understanding and the goals that we are wanting to achieve. And one of the key issues, I think, for me, when I look at this, which I really struggled with myself when I was in the process of building wealth, is making sure that the identity that I have as I am pursuing this wealth building strategy is in line with wealth building. Because sometimes we have an identity. For example, one of the things we tend to see, you look at the people around you and the people that you love, and you realize that this, for example, I experience a lot more when I go home. Most of the people I love at home, I love because they're my cousins, but it's got nothing to do with whether they have money or not. And then at some point, I realized that most of my favorite cousins were the ones that really didn't develop much through school. They didn't develop much, even to to work, and maybe they're even unemployed, but they are the most fun people to be around. And I realize as well that there's a comfort that comes with that. And that means to a certain extent, we must watch, why is it that we would tend to be more attracted to this type of people, but not that type of people? And then that means a part of the identity, we identify the most with those people that share. Most of the people, for example, that okay, let me talk about where I come from generally with my family. They would enjoy their drinks, and they would, enjoy making jokes, and it would be so much fun to be around them. And then it also means that we must watch, why is it that we enjoy more these type of people, but not these type of people? And the comfort that comes with being around people that are lots of fun, but maybe have no financial pressure, can affect your identity. These are the little bit of things that make you identify, what is my identity right now? And all of our identities over time evolve. We don't completely change, but we evolve. There are times that we are so happy with being around people that are completely, for lack of a better word, simple. Maybe even, just chatting about things that do not matter. And that we need once in a while. But when it becomes to take root in your identity, and then it doesn't become in line with your purpose, with your objectives to build wealth, and then you're spending a lot of time with these people that you love so much, then it means your identity begins to pick up on the characteristics. So it is very important for us to watch our identity. Who are we in the process of building wealth? Because if the identity that is building wealth is lacking self-worth, for example, or it's lacking self-love, we're going to have the perfect environment, the perfect behavior, the perfect skills, the perfect beliefs and values, but the identity is going to be misaligned, and therefore we will not be able to achieve our financial goals or our vision to build wealth. So I hope I'm being understood when I'm talking about this. But the last part, but not the least, the most important part, is that the process of building wealth must definitely speak to your purpose, the very reason you were born. It must speak to your innate nature. It must be the environment that when you look at, you realize that you feel at home as you do. Maybe it will be the one part. Yes, I know business has a lot of administration and aspects to it that you might not like, but the very core of your business must be what really ignites you. Because with that ignition, with that sense of passion, with that sense of mission, that sense of feeling as you wake up in the morning, that this is the reason why I was born. The reason why I was born, for me in the property sector, for example, it's to provide shelter for other people. It fulfills the essence of who I am when I see other people with a home. So the fact that in building wealth, I am able to provide a property, that I'm able to build a structure, for example, from a place that was completely vacant or a place that was completely vandalized. And I'm able to now change it around, have a vision, work so hard, and a year later or 2 years later, this environment has a place that somebody else can call it home. That for me makes it a reason for me to fight even when it's hard, even when I don't have the money to build, even when I don't have everything else that is required to make it happen. But the vision of that family, of that child and mother and father who are a young couple who are looking for a place to stay now, all of a sudden will have security in their life because I have decided to wake up in the morning and do something. For me, when I look at the completed properties and people coming in and out, and they call the place that I've designed, they drive in and sit in the driveway that I've designed and go into a room and lock and unlock with the children coming from preschool and mother and father coming from work, and they're going to cook and have supper in a place that I have designed. That gives me great fulfillment. So as a result, even when things are tough, just seeing that vision for me completes and seals the deal. So this particular slide that I'm sharing now is so fundamental to ensuring that your business is a success. I could even place the importance of even 70% of whether you are going to be successful or not in building wealth centers around this particular slide, not even the capabilities or the technical skill in your business. Okay, the one aspect that I would like to talk about, which we touched previously, was the sky is not the limit, but your belief system is. And I think this is very, very important because often we think that external things are a limit to us. Lack of finances are a limit to us. Lack of relationships and lack of support at home. We often think that these things are what are limits, but the real limit is what happens on the inside of you. The real limit is your perception to life. The real limit is how you view what you need to be doing and how you feel about what you need to be doing. If you don't have that zeal and passion as you wake up in the morning, or if there's a sense of lack of coordination internally within yourself, then that's what's going to limit you much more than any other resource can ever limit you or anything outside of your own body. And one of the things that I discovered, which was a little bit of a shock for me, was when you're building wealth, the critical importance of a relationship with yourself. Because my focus was a lot on my relationship with God, which is absolutely critical and it comes first. But I had completely ignored relationship with myself, me and myself, and the ability to sit with myself and have a conversation about my aspirations for the future. Me and the mirror, if I need a mirror, me and a pen and a book, or a me and a conversation, and just being at home with just sitting with myself and just being comfortable. There are people that are extremely uncomfortable being in the space with themselves. There are people that are not aligned with their own dreams, where you maybe criticize your own dreams or criticize your own skills or criticize your own innate talents. And therefore, when you begin to undermine what you already have on the inside, what God has blessed you with, and not see value in it, that creates a misalignment that often holds us back from reaching those goals and objectives, especially building wealth. Okay, building wealth, I'm going to move to a point where the planning is always important. When it comes to building wealth, one needs to be comfortable with a 20-year plan, a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 15-year plan, and a 20-year plan. We need to be comfortable with this idea of the next generation taking over. We need to have an idea of where am I going to be in 20 years? What is it that I need? And how do I make it happen? As this slide is saying, when Noah was told about the rain, it had never rained before. And yet he needed to see himself with the finished ark. And he needed to imagine these floods that were going to come. And imagine he needed to see this rain that had never been there before. So I think when it comes to building wealth, we must be able to see this thing that we've never seen maybe within our families, or maybe we've never even seen in our environment. But we need to be so convicted on the inside that it is possible and it's going to happen. We must be able to see it more than anybody else around us. And when we're planning, there's no space for excuses. We must watch our results. One of the most difficult things that often happen is that when we talk about building wealth, and one of the very difficult things for me to do, at least initially, was to take responsibility and look, for example, because we're talking about wealth, and one measure of wealth that usually, is so evident is what amount of money is in your bank account. And we look at what we have in front of us, and we're able to have a conversation with that. And that, accept that what we are seeing in front of us is what we have created. If you are seeing 500 rands or 10 rand or an amount you are not happy with, then you've created that amount. And that's your ability, that's your capability that you've placed in front of you. And if you are seeing thank you so much. Sorry. Apologies for the cut in my connection. I just want to emphasize that for building wealth as we continue to move forward, it's very important that you have a daily routine. And one of the difficult things for me, at least as I started out, was to establish that routine that was so consistent. And I could almost guarantee results because my routine was to the T. And I could see the difference when, for example, it's holidays and I'm not keeping. I'm actually
I think we lost.
instrument.
I think we lost Sis Amanda somewhere there.
But let's continue. Now, I would like to now specifically talk about the property industry, the technical part of it. Now, in the property industry, there is literally a dictionary of words that are so important if you want to have any conversation that will be convincing with anybody who matters in the industry. So it's very important to school yourself. And as you school yourself, then you get to understand the terminology like rezoning, what are municipal bylaws, what is subletting, what is letting, what is rent to rent, what is due diligence as you're developing your, for example, when you start to develop your property, when you start to develop your business plan, then you need the importance of having a due diligence done on your property. What are your contingencies? One of the most expensive things in property is going into it without the knowledge. The knowledge is so key. Even with the knowledge, we make a lot of mistakes. But the knowledge is so key, but you want your mistake not to be the mistake that is a careless mistake. Because once you have a mistake and that's a careless mistake, it could cost you everything. It could cost you your house. It could cost you literally every cent. You could end up living on the side of the road. There is a developer that is in Durban, that is so well known, that is so established, that is right now, all of his properties are going on sale on the second week. I think it's going to be on the last week of November.
I think, Sis Amanda, perhaps let's not use the video and maybe try just using the audio. At least we've seen your face, we've seen the slides, so that at least we make sure that we don't have a connection issue.
I'm so sorry. This has never happened with my network before. Never. Both the Wi-Fi at home
with
and
you
the
every
cell phone,
week.
they keep cutting.
We know you.
Yes, and there's so much Diwali. Yes, there's so much Diwali outside, so maybe it's all those crickets going on.
Yeah.
But let me continue.
Okay.
Is it okay if I continue?
Yes, you may continue, and I don't think you should worry about the video, says Amanda, because we can hear you loud and
okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, let me do that. We were talking about schooling yourself, and one of the very important things, and in each one of the key things with property, and I'm going to specifically talk about the development aspect of it, is that it's almost like a 2-year cycle. Every 3 months, you are dealing with a different aspect of it. And in the beginning, you're dealing with the finances, the due diligence, the development of the business plan. And then as you move to the next 3 months of the stage of the project, then you are forced to deal with the legal issues when you're signing the contracts, the lawyers, the conveyancers, and all the professional people that you require at the planning stage. And then you move to negotiations. Then now you've tied in all the loose ends, you've agreed who's going to be funding you, who your team is. Now you go through the negotiations, because 6 months later, everything that you had done is probably so different, the prices are different, and now you have to be a negotiator as the lead, as a project leader and the visionary in the project that you're running. And then you have to close the deal. And as you close the deal, you have to deal with all the government regulations. That's now the next 12 months of your projects. You deal with the government regulations, the zoning, the legal issues, the rates, the taxes, and you have to deal with that aspect of your project. And then the last part of the project is when now you begin, maybe now this is like 12 months later or even 15 months later, then you begin with the construction. And the actual construction of your project, as much as it looks like now you're starting with the project, but the construction becomes a lot easier if all the planning and everything that has come before that was properly done. And this is when you need your professionals on site, a team of various professionals. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar, but I'm going to mention a couple, but it's very important that you have a solid team that is supporting you full into your vision. And then you need a sourcing agent. I'm just going to mention the professionals that you need. And all these professionals are expensive. And as a visionary, you have to pay them. There's a sourcing agent, there's an estate agent, there is a property manager who's always on site making sure that everything is done according to plan. There's an inspector who's continuously making sure, and who's your eye over all these different professionals, because they also running their own businesses. And there's conveyancers, there's architects, there's town planners, there's structural engineers, and there's quantity surveyors. And that's just the core team. And often we have a lot of other professionals that we need, but what I've mentioned is just the core team that is very important, which you need to be best friends at the time of implementation of the project, at the time of the construction. And this construction period is subject to the weather. So every day it costs you money. So one day delay that's caused by a rain or worse, a flood, that costs you money in your pocket. So as a developer at the construction stage, anything can happen. And as you are dealing with your property at the construction stage, you could even, as you dig, find a lot of water that was not detected by the structural engineers underneath on the ground. And that's also additional money that costs you. And that means as well that you need other professionals that you didn't expect that you need. And it can hold your project back by a month or 2 or even 3 months. And that means you'll have to pay your funders before your project has even started turning around or even earning an income. So every day is expensive at that planning stage, construction stage. But let me talk about, just before we close, I'm conscious of the time, I'm going to talk about the development of a strategy. When you develop a strategy, there are various ways in the property sector that you can make money, literally a list in endless. So it's very important that you understand yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses, you understand your team, And then you understand the property that you have in front of you, whether it's vacant land, its surroundings, or it's a vandalized building. How can you make the highest and best use of that property so it can give you maximum returns? Because one of the things you need to consider, even if you are passionate about this, that, and the other, you are passionate, for example, about building malls. But if building a mall is not going to give you the returns, it's just going to maybe boost your ego because you're saying you've built a mall. It's very important that you realize that now it's my ego, but the numbers are saying the residential property would work better here than, or maybe building a crèche or a school would work better in this environment than building a mall, even though a mall is a lot more exciting. So that's very important that you make sure that the highest and best use, you consider the legal and the government regulations around what you need. And there's also one aspect that is so important, the effect on the community of what you're going to be building. So there's a lot of balls that are juggling in the air that you need to consider, not just the passion and your vision. There is finances that are so critical, there's the stakeholders, and there's the responsibility that comes with social issues that you have to make sure whatever you design or you develop is responsible in terms of the community, or it services the community better. But talking about the simple strategy, most people, when they enter the property sector, they would come in what we call buy to let. And buy to let would be, for
I think we've lost Six Amanda again.
single story.
Okay. Okay, you're
Have
back.
we lost the
Yeah.
Okay. And it could move from renovating it to maybe making a single story building to a 20-story building. And you need to decide whether you need to rent out the property or you sell the property at the end of it. And if you choose to rent the property, at what stage can you refinance it? Because you need to extract equity out of the property that you have, because you need to make sure that the main objective of the business is that the money is able to come from what you're doing. And there's, in a simple way, how can you manipulate the inside of the property to make sure that you extract value from it? That's the simple version of you could call development. And then the complicated one is when you
Okay, I think we've lost you again, Samantha.
extremely good. Some properties are extremely good.
Can you say maybe the last three words you said? We lost you for a bit there.
Balance between having a cash flow and having capital gain in the same property, whether it's short term, 1 to 5 years, or even 10 to 20 years.
Sis Amanda, I think we have about 10 seconds that we lost there. Would you go back a bit?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go back to this slide, which is also important. When you have a business in property, one of the strategies you should be conscious of, are you aiming to have cash flow, or are you aiming to gain on capital gains? Or do you want to strike both? It's usually very difficult to purchase a property today, and within immediate occupation, you receive your cash flow. And then over a period, you have your capital gains. So one of the things that are a real art when it comes to property development is having to receive cash flow from your property from day one of operation to receiving that capital gains at the time that you're passing it over to somebody else or you are refinancing it. And then tips to talk about tips before I close off. Creativity is very important in thinking on your feet is very important, because a problem can come anytime. A storm can come and your roof can leave as quickly as you've just placed it. And very important that you do not copy what the other person next door has done. Otherwise, your property loses its uniqueness, its competitive edge. You need to be able to think through your strategy that it gives you a competitive edge in the market, because it is very risky if you develop a property and spend all this time and planning and these professionals, and you lose with one thing, and it causes you to lose money completely. And we've seen actually in a lot of places where we see vandalized properties or white properties or even white cities where there is no longer use for what was originally developed. Let me touch on the one aspect. Most people that are coming for the first time into the property sector, either they're going to be property agents or they're going to be deal packaging. Deal packaging means you are able to look at a property, but you are aware that your main objective is to have cash flow. But you come in and say, I've got an idea. You package the idea until the business plan part, and then you sell that business plan. A lot of people that are investors in the property sector are so happy to get a business plan that's already done and pay you a good 20,000 to 30,000 for the business plan that you've developed, an idea that you have, because you have saved that developer maybe a year of work and research and all of that, and you just give them that business plan. Other people work full-time to just develop an idea and sell it to somebody else. Now, okay, I'm not going to go through this, but let me run through how can you have multiple streams of income within this one sector. You can have a single let, meaning buy a flat and rent it out. Simple and straightforward. You can also have a multi-let or a house with multiple occupants, where you take your house and cause it to be like a commune, or you live in your own house and let the other rooms be rented out by some other people, or you buy and sell a house, or you even flip. I'm not sure if everybody is familiar with flipping, but where you buy a property with the intention to sell it immediately. And other people can actually buy a property, do all the work before the transfer has come through. At transfer, it doesn't even come to you as a developer. It goes to somebody else who is interested in buying it. So in that way, you've saved a lot of money and you've got your return, which is the capital gains that we talk about within 3 months or the 8 weeks that it takes to transfer a property. And then there's commercial conversions, where you take a residential property and you change it to a commercial property. Maybe it was a flats and then now you make it shops, or it was shops and now you make it residential. You can make it an Airbnb. You can also open an academy and teach people about property after you've had all these experiences. And you can also rent to rent. There is a way of renting a property with the intention to rent to somebody else, and you pocket the difference. So in that way, you don't even have to have the capital to buy a property. You rent it out from a landlord, and then you rent it out to somebody else, and the extra 500 comes to you, and you haven't paid a thing. You just came up with the idea. And you can also be an agent, as I've correctly said, or a property manager in the property, which gives you a step into the property industry, and you're familiar with everything that's happening, but you act as a professional before you actually invest so much in the property. I'm conscious of time. Do I still have the time? I think I wanted to talk about structures because structures affect the tax specifically. And I just want to touch on the 4 different structures that are critical. You can either buy a property as a sole trader, which is very risky, but if it's your one and only property, you can do that. You can also enter into partnership. You can have a trust, and you can have a company. Each of these different business structures give you benefits. There's pros and cons. But for tax purposes, for example, there's capital gains tax, there's corporate tax, there's dividends tax, and there's estate duty. and there's personal income tax, and there's transfer duties. So you have to consider all these tax implications for every structure that you decide to choose. Thank you very much. I think I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Very well done, very well done. Wow, yeah. No, we really got value, we really got value, and it's amazing how, you know, all our speakers are just so top class. Thank you so much, Sis Amanda. Are there any questions? We have asked for an extra 10 minutes due to the technical difficulties. So if you can stay and the meal and the dinner is not hot there and ulambile and you're looking at it, if you can give us an extra 10 minutes, it will be much appreciated. Sorry, there was a hand up. It's done now. There was a hand
Sorry.
up. Oh, it was by mistake. Okay. Does anyone have a question or comment? Do you have a question or comment? Please unmute. Mabongi, have you allowed them to be able to? Okay,
Yes.
Dumile.
Good evening. Good evening, Mlamli. Good evening to our hostess, Amanda. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. That was amazing, amazing, amazing. I love the passion. Just a quick question from my side. If you can make a comment on crowdfunding. I think my passion in the property sector has always been, can't we get together, only brick, layer, structure, pearls, or whatever, just, to talk about ngoba very often, as abantu abantsundu especially, we don't have the capability to go in it big time. What is your take on us working together?
Thank you so much, Sister Miller. With your permission, my dear brother Mlam, can I
Yes,
go
please
ahead?
go ahead. Yes, please.
Yes, Sister Miller, thank you so much for your comments and your question. Crowdfunding in its simplicity, it's the best idea. But the funding institutions are very cautious based on the history of people fighting within the crowd. Or there is such risk when they, for example, if your crowdfunding actually can give you enough money to purchase everything that you need to purchase, then it's all good and well. And if you are able to elect one or two people to represent you, for example, in a form of a co-op or in a form of like two trustees, if it was a trust, and then there would be no infighting within the group, then it's an excellent way of making it happen. The only risk that most people have difficulty managing, because we are human beings, it's very difficult to manage the human being and the behavior of a human being. People stay away from crowdfunding. But crowdfunding can be from maybe 10 people to 200 people, 500 people. It's possible. It can work. But if the 10 people you must have a core value. And I think that's the critical thing. You must have a core value, because in other countries, for example, Kenya, they are very good with having a group of crowdfunding, or a group of people that, especially women, would come together and have for example, own a bank or own properties as groups. I guess in some cultures, when there's a good respect amongst people, and then the person who is leading the organization is well respected, and there's nobody who's going to incite coming against the person who's leading, then it all works well. But generally, people shy away from it because of the risks associated with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sis Amanda. I think that actually touches back on where you started in terms of the core values of you as a person. And I think then by extension, it would be the core values of the group or the team that you bring in order to try and facilitate that crowdfunding and do that project. Mr. Lance, you had a question?
Yes, thank you again, Mlamuli, and thank you, Sis Amanda. My question, Sis Amanda, is I have a house. It's a practical question. I have a house in Joburg, on the East Rand, but it's a kasi, a Katlehong. I haven't been staying in it, but lately I've been looking at it into converting it into maybe apartments or subletting it into rooms. What are the pros and cons in that instance in terms of reasons and making passive income on it?
It is possible. You can rent it out as is. For example, if it's 3 bedrooms, you just bring 3 different people to share the kitchen. That's also possible. You obviously need to have somebody who's a full-time manager of that property, where people know that somebody continuously come to check on the status of the 3 different people, because obviously there's human being, there needs to be peace. But if you choose that you want the property to be, like, for example, apartments that are obvious on the outside, that these are apartments, and there's regulations and the zoning by the municipality. The municipality allows some areas to have apartments or flats, but some municipalities are very strict depending on the residential area. And obviously, you need approval from the neighbors, even if the zoning is allowing that you have apartments. Sometimes they say you can't go beyond 3 floors. Sometimes you can't go beyond 2 floors. Sometimes you can only have one single story in that area. So it's very important to have your town planner to look at the zoning, or you feel comfortable to go into the municipality and ask them, what are the rules in this particular area? And the inspector can help you and say, okay, you can do this, but you can't do that. And there's going to be those laws. And obviously, you have to have the 3 neighbors, the 2 people next to you, and the one right behind you or in front of you. 3 neighbors have to agree and sign your development plans. If they sign, then everything is good to go. But usually, neighbors are not keen to have, especially if your area is full of families, and then you're going to be bringing a lot of young people to stay. They usually are concerned about parties and all of those things. But you can mitigate that by having a property manager on site and having the rules, that these are the rules that we apply in this property, and therefore mitigate that. And if you are able to bring your neighbors comfort that you will be able to manage the property, then it's usually not so difficult. Obviously, if you get approval from the municipality.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sis Amanda. I think Lance is answered. And Chennai, please unmute.
Okay, I have a question, more of a request actually, to elaborate more on the structure and maybe give benefits of the different structures.
Okay, we have the various structures, right? We have as a sole trader. As a sole trader, the biggest risk is that if anything goes wrong, they immediately come for you because it's your name. They come for you, your children, and your family. And that's immediate, and that's very easy from whoever you owe, because property in its nature is risky, and you have to be bold in character, and you take risks, and there's a lot of dynamics that you cannot control, even though you are the business person, because the decision making lies somewhere else, or with the municipality or with the architect, or so as a sole trader, generally, if you are in property, avoid being a sole trader, except if it's your basic home and you're not intending to go to other different kinds of properties. And then there's partnership. But the advantage of a sole trader is that the taxes are minimum when it comes to a sole trader. You pay as little as possible when it comes to transfer costs. You pay as little as possible when it comes to taxes. And then with the partnership either if it's 2 different human beings, then you have to clearly define everything in your partnership agreement. If it's the company, you have to clearly define everything with these 2 companies that are partnering with each other. If there's anything that means your contract has to be really tight. Who's responsible for what, and what are the roles and responsibilities if you are signing a partnership agreement. And then there is a company. A has a bit more tax than the sole trader. And usually a company which there's corporate tax, they would charge 27% as a standard and as a flat tax for the year. But on trusts, the administration is a lot higher. It could even go up to 41% when it comes to trusts. And for transfer duties for trusts is a lot more. If you decide to put your property in a trust, that means your intention is, yes, you receive a lot of protection, because if there's something that goes wrong, before they come for you personally and your personal assets and your home and everything, it's usually a very rigorous process before they come and repossess your personal stuff. But the administration of a trust on monthly basis, because with the trust you have to have an external trustee, which is this lawyer that you have to pay on, because their name is on trust document monthly basis. And the legal Department of Justice often changes how to govern trusts, and all those changes have to be done every time there's changes in the law. You have to change your trust, and that means you're paying your attorney additional money to manage that. And even when you have to move the ownership from one person to the other who is not a trustee and who's also not a beneficiary on your trust, you have to pay the capital gains tax of 41%. And if you happen to pass away, there is an advantage when you are on a trust, because you do not have to pay estate duties. If the person you want to give the property to is already a beneficiary in your trust, that means you do not have to pay estate duties at all. But with a sole proprietor or a company, you have to pay estate duties, which is go up to the third of the value of your property. And if you have a property portfolio of $1 billion, that is a lot of money for the person you are leaving behind to be paying that, when perhaps they could even be a minor if it's your child. And I think I could go on and on and on about that, but I think I'll leave it there for now.
Okay. Thank you, Sis Amanda.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
And there's a question from Mhlongo. The question is, the property market goes through different seasons. What strategy do you recommend to stay resilient in a volatile market?
You must almost guarantee that it's going to go out and up and down as you purchase your property. So you must have a long-term strategy to it. There is without fail, your property is going to create value, almost without fail. But what happens is you must not get to a point where you are rushing to sell your property within 5 years or 10 years. And you must also be strategic about the period that you choose to sell your property. For example, I purchased a property it was 1999. In my very first job, I decided to use my payslip to buy a property that was 90,000. It was an apartment that was in Rosebank in Cape Town, which is a really good area. But it was an apartment that was 45 square meters. And that property, I bought it for 99,000, and I never paid anything because all costs were included. I was able to negotiate for it. But when I parted ways with that property, when the property value really went high, it was 15 years later, and I sold it for 1.2 million. And that property was earning income for me from day one, because I lived in that property for about 6 to 8 months, and I rented it out. It paid itself and gave me a good 2,000 rands of income in my pocket almost within that 8 months. It continued to grow. The rent continues to go up. So even when I had to renovate the property or paint it, I used the same income that I was getting from the property, and I still had change. And even when I had to sell it 15 years later, I still sold it for 1.2 million, and that was cash in my pocket. So I don't think go wrong with property if you do your planning right, if you have a team, and if you are able to wait the right time. The problem is we want to sell our property, but you must know this property you're buying it, you want it to this value at its mark, and don't compromise. Sell it at that value if you want to sell it at that value, or keep it for the next generation.
Thank you.
And allow
Thank you.
that property to be your cash cow.
Thank you. Thank you. And well done on that sale. Whew, a 10x. Very nice. Actually, more than that because you also had the cash flow that was coming in. So thank you for everyone giving us extra time. I noticed that most of the questions were on the actual property aspect and like implementing it. And I would just like to end with bringing attention back to where Amanda started terms of knowing yourself and knowing your purpose and knowing why you do what you do because two people can both look at the same property, one can make money from it, one can lose money given the things that were being shared in the beginning. And also what I like about really liked about the presentation, it addressed there's this notion now of self-made. I'm a self-made millionaire, which is going around. But I think we all see today that if you really want to create wealth, it's going to take a competent team and you're going to have to build with others, but also have the purpose of why you are building that which you are building. So I would like us to remember that aspect of it as well, because that for me is foundational and applies throughout whichever vehicle you choose to attain your wealth, whether it be property or business or assets, etc., etc., that remains true. So thank you so much for that great foundation that creates that fertile soil that when our gifts and our talents are planted, they can manifest into the fruits that multiply and we have dominion in our sphere, which is actually how God wants it for his children. Thank you so much for staying extra. Literally I think 99% of people stayed. We appreciate that and we thank you so much. We hope you got value. I think we all did. And if I may ask a last round of applause for Amanda for an amazing presentation. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my dear brother Mla. God bless you. Thank you to everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Listening.
Sorry, Amanda, if you could please share your details. People are asking for coaching. That's one. People are asking how they can get your book. So if you could please share those details on the chat, and we'll stay on a bit longer so others can copy the details. But we'll also put it in the LPG community group on WhatsApp.
Okay, I've just sent through my WhatsApp number. Feel free to text the WhatsApp, whatever your need is, and I can reply immediately on the WhatsApp.
Okay, thank you so much. Excellent. And the book, they will call you? The WhatsApp you?
Same WhatsApp text.
Okay.
Always
all right, just
on WhatsApp.
All right. How much is the book?
Are you? Yeah.
Sorry?
250. 250.
I nearly thought you said 2 rand. Okay, guys, the book is 200 rand, and I'm pretty sure, and I know that the return on investment on it is probably more than 10x. So please make sure you get that copy because the book probably goes into more detail on the journey that Amanda has traveled. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Enjoy dinner. I'm sure the pots are happening now, and they are wondering why you are not eating.